The FIA has yet again made another blunder, as if they haven't done enough this off-season. This time they're trying to clamp down even harder on the teams and hovering more over development and all things happening in the factory. This has of course displeased the team after all that has happened in recent weeks. So unity is something unusual in Formula One, especially between the teams. But the present FIA governance has achieved it, but not for the better side of things, unfortunately. Let's dive into what happened. Following what Ferrari terms embarrassing allegations about the FIA's unnecessary and prematurely ended probe into Toto and Susie Wolff's professional integrity, former FIA President Jean Todt has also gone on the offensive, adding more pressure on his replacement, Mohammed Ben Sulayem. This is just another unpleasant bad storyline for the FIA, following an F1 season in which the FIA's control of the competition was often questioned. Think track limitations, track inspections, chastising Lewis Hamilton for crossing a live circuit, and criticising Toto Wolff and Fred Vasseur for using filthy language in a press conference while no one was watching. Oh. Then there's the question of the FIA president blindsiding everyone by unilaterally initiating a procedure to bring an 11th team into F1 when none of the other stakeholders wanted it. Vasseur was questioned about deteriorating ties between Formula One management and the governing body at a pre-Christmas media meeting at Maranello. He termed the reports regarding Toto and Susie Wolff quite embarrassing for our sport, and said that the FIA would have been better served by exercising greater caution in its public statements. However, this is only the latest blunder in the FIA's lengthy history of bad PR. Its relationships with the commercial rights holder and F1 teams have been deteriorating since Charlie Whiting died unexpectedly in 2019, and appear to have worsened since Michael Masi messed up Abu Dhabi 2021, and the FIA adopted a more tedious approach to policing F1. By that point, ex-Ferrari team boss Todt had stepped away from his 12-year tenure as president of F1's governing body. Todt has now felt compelled to add to his successor's increasing list of troubles by defending his own presidential record against perceived assaults by his successor. Todt questioned Ben Sulayem's character in an interview with the respected French daily L'Équipe, as well as some of the significant choices taken by the FIA after he stood down. Todt spent the most of the interview defending his administration against charges from the current president that the FIA was facing a near €25 million deficit in our operating costs in 2022, as well as court cases that could go over €100 million. Despite being a member of the FIA's World Council, Ben Sulayem said in an interview that he had never been told about the issue. "When I came, we had financial issues for 4 years in the past," he said. "How can I run this FIA? It's impossible." Todt's reaction asserted that the FIA would have vanished totally during the COVID years of 2020 to 21 if F1 had been unable to operate despite the pandemic's limits. He also claimed to have left the FIA with €250 million in reserves, despite the fact that when I arrived in 2009, there were barely 40 million. The FIA has responded by publishing numbers indicating that it was incurring significant losses, according to an FIA official. After Ben Sulayem gained office, it was determined that the financial state that was discovered was unsatisfactory and unsustainable. These statistics will be included in future FIA activity reports. As certified by the FIA's auditors, the FIA's operating loss amounted to €12.8 million in 2019, €22.1 million in 2020, and €24 million in 2021, stated a representative for the organisation. The FIA has reduced its operating loss to €7.7 million in 2022. For 2023, it forecasts a €3 million loss, which it plans to further reduce in 2024, targeting a balanced operating result at the latest in 2025. The senior leadership's mission is to sustain the FIA, and while we are not for profit, we do need to at least have balanced books and ideally create a surplus to strengthen equity for unforeseen events and to invest in research and development in the areas of safety, technology and regulation across sport and mobility, and to meet our primary purpose of supporting our member clubs. Todt also claimed to have almost tripled the federal budget and added new revenue streams through Formula E, the World Endurance Championship and cross-country rallying, though he admitted that increasing the FIA's workforce from less than 80 jobs to more than 200 added costs, as did the FIA's Innovation Fund, which Todt admitted might be a little too generous. The FIA's operational loss increased to €24 million by the time Todt left office. while it is conceivable to run at a loss without using the reserves, Todt claimed. Nonetheless, as seen by the FIA's response, the current administration maintains that finances are unsustainable. Todt did not deny that there was a pending litigation over the Halo patent, but he did deny Ben Sulayem's allegation that he had never been told about this and other potential liabilities. "It wasn't swept under the rug," Todt said. "It was well documented and monitored. We presented it to the Senate and the World Council before I left, and the current president attended this presentation." This was a lawsuit brought in Texas by an engineer who owned a patent that was only valid in the United States and for a short time. "So when I left, there was nothing secret, and only one ongoing case, that one. But I wasn't surprised. I knew who my successor was. I know the character." He has stated, perhaps deceptively, that he begins from the principle that when one chapter closes, another opens, and we do not allow ourselves to attack its predecessor. Todt emphasized the improved contract he negotiated for the FIA in terms of Formula One revenue. He also discussed increasing the FIA's voting share in F1's modern governance, before alleging that everything that was put in place during my mandate was turned upside down. This he labelled factual, and he stated that since Marcy's departure from F1 race management, the whole organisation has been turned upside down. Todt makes it clear that Marcy was used as a scapegoat for the Abu Dhabi 2021 disaster, describing him as a very good professional who produced impeccable work over the years, and arguing that a championship can be lost in the last race. When asked about Ben Sulayem's suggestion that Marcy be brought back into a frontline role, Ben Sulayem's apparent attacks on Todt's term were similarly dismissed as smoke by Todt. "It doesn't matter to me," remarked Todt. "There is no point launching into allegations, especially when they are false." The apparent implication here is that the current FIA president is stretching the facts and undermining what Todt plainly believes was his own excellent work in vastly improving ties between the FIA and F1 and its teams. Perhaps it paints a too rosy view of F1's recent history, but it's tough to dispute that those relationships haven't reached new lows in the last 2 years. And it is for this that the present FIA president will have to account. And if that all wasn't enough to permanently destroy the relationships between the FIA and the teams, the FIA are introducing new rules which will enable them to conduct unannounced checks at team factories in order to ensure that all competition regulations are fulfilled. Talk about Big Brother, right? Unannounced visits by regulatory officials are nothing new in sport and are especially common when it comes to drug testing. But for the time being, F1 teams have been notified of the FIA's inspections when they're coming to see the factories. That might change in the near future, with FIA single-seater director Nicholas Tombazis saying he would like to expand the FIA's arsenal with unannounced visits, especially because the factory visits are an important element of the FIA's safeguards, with the governing body able to objectively verify how an F1 team develops a car. However, until recently, teams have been given enough warning that the FIA would shortly be knocking on their door. "We actually want to make unannounced visits," Tombazis said. "We don't think we should just barge in, but we do think it would be good to have a process where we can call teams, have someone come and pick people up and allow them to say, 'I want the wind tunnel or whatever C.'" Tombazis also mentioned an absence of inspectors on the FIA payroll, which he hoped would improve shortly. "We had been aiming to expand the team with inspectors for a long time, but we were actually short-handed," he told reporters. "We have recently approached the target number for this team and are therefore able to visit teams every 2 to 3 weeks. When asked how long they plan to wait at a team's gates, Tombazis responded, 10 to 15 minutes. "We want to get to a point where it really happens quite immediately so that we don't have to wait another hour or more for the entrance." The teams will certainly not be happy about these changes. But what about you? Are you happy that the FIA will be doing more to police the teams? Or are you on board with the teams and former bosses that this regime at the FIA is going too far and messing up too often? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.